You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world, and have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Hey, Over the Back Fences. We're going to let you know that this episode's brought to you by AIR, and our AIR for women is EIR, not AIR. Now, they're experts in natural hormonal health for women over 40.
Yeah, their products, they're designed to support energy, which we love,
that.
mood, sleep,
Love
and
that.
more, helping you feel your best.
Oh, what more could you want?
We want
and
that.
honestly, we've both been using them now officially for 3 months. We will not promote something we haven't used, and we've noticed the difference.
Absolutely, we love it. So just use the code OTBF15 at checkout for an exclusive Backfencer listening discount at airwomen.com.au.
So
and
that's 15% off, isn't it?
15%.
That's great.
I know, that's really good. And that's eirwomen.com.au. Go get onto it.
Yahoo, and have your best life.
And we're back, Dodie,
yes, Monday.
And guess what? Monday, and it's the start of a new month, and it's a lead up
Yeah,
to, believe it or not, Christmas.
I know. A lot of
December.
people go, it's madness and it's stressful and it's everyone's busy and everyone's worrying and financially people are, have I got enough this year? But having said that, it's a really beautiful time when people get together. I have 42 of us together on Christmas Day because, as you all know now, if you don't, you're not listening. How many times do I slam dunk on one of 8? But, it's just all that lead up to it. But I actually love it.
Yeah.
I haven't even put the tree up, but I'm excited to put that up.
I can't even imagine what your Christmas shopping's like, Di.
No, it's we used to do like a little, take a name out of a hat, but that sort of got lost in the wash.
That's
I
a good
love
idea.
that. It took the pressure off.
Yeah, that's true. I've done that when I've been in blended families and big families, would do sort of like the Secret Santa, and I love that because we'll do it for an X amount of price and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Now, how have you been and what's been happening in the
I
world
had a
of
great
Di?
week. Well, it's funny.
Di-di-di-di-di-do.
For our international lessons, Sydney's been raining a lot, and I was
It's raining men.
Hallelujah.
Hey, why am I singing? You're normally the singing one. Come on.
you and I are both in a great mood around a lot of different things.
Actually, we've got a guest coming up. It might be for a while too, and it's really good from a man's perspective about dating. So we've got a special one. It's a surprise coming up, and it's going to be Ladies' Man because we talk about different things
When's
too.
that one? Next
It's coming up soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, coming up soon.
Don't you love it? I'm I'm looking forward to that.
What have you been doing?
Look, you know what I did last week, and it was actually quite cray-cray.
Cray-cray. We love a bit of cray-cray.
We love cray-cray. I did a cacao ceremony.
What's that?
Well, I said that too. And I'm thinking, haven't I read that in bloody chocolate? Yeah.
Hot chocolate.
And it's Peruvian hot chocolate, and it's all been, like in Peru, they do some ceremony around the chocolate. And look, there was about 100 candles, and we're all lying flat. And oh my God, I went off on this journey to the never never. So it's a great thing, it took to step off the bandwagon of life, whether you go to a retreat or whether you go into a corner of a room, meditate, light some candles is very powerful.
Wow. And did you have, I'm guessing, the hot chocolate? It was all,
Did you ask what was in it?
Yeah, well, that's true. Was it really yummy?
Yeah,
Did you have? Were you all drinking cups of hot chocolate?
Well, you know how you're normally used to chocolate with sugar because you like chocolate,
Mm.
right? Well, there's no sugar in it. It's the pure cacao.
Well, I'd love that.
And it's so good for
quality.
you.
Yeah.
It was just beautiful.
Oh, Dodie, well, it sounds like you've been having a lot of fun, and maybe more fun than me.
Oh, you've been having fun.
I've been having a bit of fun.
You
which
and
is
I
good.
live. That's our word.
It is.
F-U-N.
F-U-N. You know what? If you can't have fun and be a big kid as we age, and
change the way you live.
Well, I've been.
You can do it.
I went to Yin Yoga because I'm into stretching that body, and and that does me the world of good because you all know I'm a double Aries and I'm go. So it's one of those things of calming the farm. Yeah. And gosh, I feel good. It's one of those things.
How many mornings do you do it?
I went just twice last week.
Yeah.
And, if I can squeeze that in, which I really try and make that as a thing, I'll try and do it. Gee, Johnny's got the giggles. I don't know what that is.
Oh, God knows why.
And a little barbecue. I was into a barbecue, caught up with some friends. A good old sasso on the barbie is always good.
I can't stop laughing today.
Well, it's good to be happy.
Why is it?
And we're talking about...
Because you know why? I've got my best bosom buddy here, and it's really funny because Nicholas stayed with me a couple nights on the weekend, and we were laughing our heads off with... I think we're talking to my sister. We're laughing our heads off because I went... Well, guess who's here? And then we got the giggles so badly. We're laughing so much because we work together and we play together. And then she was staying with me for a few nights. And we're like legs 11 laughing. And I thought, we do have sometimes you've got to, I think, stop and think about your friendships and who and what they are and what they mean to you. Yep. And I think it was just that moment in time where I super appreciated our ebb and flow in life. And we get the joke. We just said we love the word fun, but I thought, God, you'd think I want to kill her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we need to, and there's also a lot goes on behind building a podcast, guys. And that's not always Fifth and Bubble, but we rise above that.
We do.
And I just thought when we were just laughing on the couch and I looked at you and I thought, we're like two little girls.
We are, exactly. It's like, and I think that's the thing with friendship. And I think also, because we're such good friends, and for the listeners out there, how you sort of value friends. And, we have our boundaries, even though it's a crash in your apartment, but other times then I'll message or a text or something, and I'll say, we don't catch up because it's important.
It's very
to
important.
Have that space.
We both love our own space.
But it's nice when you enjoy company. And, we're sort of talking about so many things on the podcast. And our big thing with the podcast really is connection, and we are loving and we're so grateful for the feedback that we've got, and we love this sort of backfence community that we've built. Now coming to the end of our second year, and it just makes our hearts sing with hearing the response.
We got a beautiful message this week. It was so magic, and I'd read it, which I shouldn't have at the lights, and
you lose some points there, Di.
I know. You see, I thought I'm not driving. I'm at the light, and it was really slow lights, but it was on. Anyway, enough of justifying this naughty little girl.
The police will do a backtrack of where you were.
They probably will. That's not my name, my real name. But it was like, I thought, those points that she made about our podcast and how it affected her got me, because I thought that's why we started it. Hopefully to wash over others and make them feel inspired, because that was our word that ignited
inspiration,
la, 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 la,
and just being real, authentic, and having
Baby,
fun.
You're a fire,
and then sometimes life hasn't been great, and incidents happen in life.
Sam's on the floor. Baby, you're a fire.
And I think that's where it's so good. And so for our listeners here,
sorry guys, I've been naughty
She's being
today.
a kid there. But we're just sort of saying too, how life does have its ups and downs, and that's what a real friendship's about, to be there. And sometimes, when someone's not all that well or whatever, you don't even know what to say. Now, we've got coming up
we've got an amazing
guest.
Human being.
Yeah,
Mitch Wallis. And honestly, I think it's like a cat lapping up milk for Nick and I, because conversations is what we do and is what we love. And Mitch Wallis, his book is all about real conversations. Yeah. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
Stay tuned. I'll tell you what, today, everyone, we're super excited and honoured that we're joined by Mitch Wallis, who's a mental health expert. He's the author of a fabulous book, which we're going to go through today.
Just spit water
and
on
it's
us.
Real Conversations. He's a keynote speaker. He's a podcaster. He's the founder of the global mental health movement, Heart on My Sleeve. And, that's what it's all about. Mitch is a leader in the wellness space on a lifelong mission to change the way the world feels. I heard him speak recently at the Groundswell Foundation Ball, a foundation dedicated to address loneliness and its impact on mental health in Australia. So we want to dive in more, and we're really excited and honoured that you're here, Mitch. Thank you for joining us in the Backfence.
How lucky am I to spend the morning with these 3 beautiful women, including our
Sam
producer
joining
here.
in, our producer.
I just love that Mitch just picked up his book that we have on the table here, and there's water all over it. I think it's gone to paper.
Could have been wine,
it's gone to paper. No, it's going to paper
It means
mache.
that it's being Yeah, it lives in, it's used, we love it.
That's been to bed with me twice.
Oh,
I
my
know.
Lord.
I need you to know that,
That's an
Mitch.
honour to
No,
say
I
I've been to bed with
the
you.
other night and slept on it.
Yeah, so, and there's scribble
Now,
lines.
that's real.
There's highlights
There's
in there.
highlights.
We know it's that is real.
But Mitch,
Let's hear from Mitch.
now, Mitch, honestly,
Talk
with
to
you,
me.
because I have been following you for a long time, I
Thank you,
think
Di.
you're amazing. Thank God you're in this world. Thank
Thank
God.
you.
We do tend to interview a few Earth Angels. And I'm like, okay, where's somewhere fascinating to start? And as I always say at the beginning, because people listening going, well, who the fuck
Yeah, who's
is
this
Mitch
guy?
Wallis,
Yeah.
right? So
And why is he in Di's bed?
It's well, firstly, I want to say that podcasts, great platform for real conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't we start with just you working as a global production manager for Microsoft in the USA,
Yeah.
taking you back, and you collapsed in a heat of anxiety. And I loved your term, your mental health was erupting like a volcano. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Can you just elaborate a little further on that and just unpack that for our listeners?
Yeah, I still remember my friend walking into the office, because at Microsoft in Seattle, it's a big deal. They kind of maybe placate to your ego a bit, because they give you your own like shut door office that you can decorate and have a space. And I'm 25 in America having a multi-million-dollar budget, you know, and batting so far above my average, it was ridiculous. And I remember my friend knocking on my door, walking in, and I was having such a severe panic attack that he pretty much had to grab my arm over the back of his shoulder and drag me out of the building and put me in the car. And in the car, I was like, hey, I don't think I'm getting out of this. Like, in my mind, I was walking down the beginning of the end, and we got to the doctor's office and they said, what's going on? And I said, I think I'm about to go insane. And that was kind of the ultimate implosion starting to erupt, but it would go on to erupt far worse than that in the weeks to come. But that was hardly a anomaly. That severity perhaps wasn't an always on 9 to 5 thing, but suffering has been the norm, has been like oxygen for me from the age of 7. And I don't mean that in a way of like privileged entitlement, and I also don't like comparative suffering whereby do I have it worse off than others. I'm very, very aware of all the amazing things in my life and all the opportunities I've been afforded, hence why I now devote my life to this, to help belay people up the mountain who aren't afforded the same. But from as young as I can remember, I would have intrusive thoughts that would make me believe that I was possessed by the devil and was a bad person, to the extent it would take me hours to leave my bedroom because I'd touch a light switch 150 times with severe OCD and anxiety. And I can't really remember going a day where I didn't think something is severely wrong with me and one day it's all going to crumble on itself and that will result in me not being here anymore. So that, you know, to start off around that moment at Microsoft, yes, that was a big event, but it was absolutely, I was like, right on time.
Wow.
It's like waiting for you. And
Yeah.
then, what about with your mum? Was that the end of the jetty? Was that?
Yeah, that was a couple of days after that is...
After the Microsoft.
Yeah. And I had checked I booked in to go to a clinic for OCD rehabilitation because I'd never looked at this thing in the eye. And that was one of many diagnoses that I had to get on top of. Like, I haven't just suffered with a little bit of anxiety, not to diminish that because it can be overwhelming, but I've suffered from extremely complex mental illnesses that are borderline psychosis level illness. Also some that even psychologists don't even know about really, like depersonalization disorder, for example, is something that is usually a symptom of something else. So depersonalization is the feeling of being out of body, that you are looking through life through like foggy lenses. It's the natural body reaction to what happens during a traumatic event where you intentionally eject from feeling within your nervous system as a defense mechanism. For example, if you saw a car crash right now, you would feel depersonalized, that things aren't real. You're like, am I dreaming or is this actually happening? What can happen is you can get stuck in that state. And I haven't really spoken about this much publicly, but that was as bad, if not worse, than the OCD that would sometimes debilitate my day for hours at a time. because it was like you were stuck in the purgatory of insanity. And I felt like at any moment I was going to snap and lose control, but I was fully lucid at the same time. I would talk to you like this and be a million miles out of body. And in the rare instances I would go into the professional help system as a teenager, because my mum would be like, you have to talk to someone, I would cower into a psychologist's office and within 5 seconds be like, this isn't for me. Because I could tell the dreaded left eyebrow raise happen, where they would look at me kind of funny, and that would disorganize my internal state of like, fuck, I am crazy. But I would have to go through the hour, so I would mutter some words here and there, which, looking back on it now, is blatantly OCD and depersonalization disorder to start. And they would just say, I think he's going through some generalized anxiety and blah, blah, blah. So by the time everything had kind of come to the fore as an adult, and then the breakdown started to happen, the Microsoft, and then checking myself into a clinic, because I'm like, shit, this is some of those things that I would Google and be like, this is me. I was like, I can't overcome this mountain. Now that the mountain's becoming more visible around, okay, there are some actual things that is wrong with me. I can see the path that I need to do to get through this. I don't have the willpower to go through with it. So I might as well just opt out here. And that's where I wrote in the book that my mum's voice kind of echoed through the phone, 3 words that saved my life: I love you, and I'm here, 6 words.
And was she in Australia?
Yeah, she was in Australia, and while I was in America.
Right.
So no, she wasn't with me physically.
So it was those words.
Absolutely. Those words on that occasion, and the countless occasions leading up to that point of, I don't know how, but we will find a way because I'm loved unconditionally. And I think that's kind of what Real Conversations is devoted to, is when you don't know the answer and when you can't see the solution in front of you, care will survive. It is the life raft that can combat any obstacle and is ultimately the resilience glue that, in the absence of knowing exactly what intervention to do right now, that will remove all the infection that's going to kill you before the problem does.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what's
It's got me.
I know, and everybody.
That was just magnificent what you just said.
Yeah.
For those listening too, I hope you're digesting that. There's a lot in that.
Because it sometimes is that comes down to it nearly seems to be nearly too simple, for a lot of people thinking they're too scared to say something
point,
or whatever there, but it
we
is
think
actually
it's got to be complex, but it's not.
The real care. And you've lived and breathed it from the whole way. That's why it's so good, especially to talk to you. And as you know, you're not alone, and so many people aren't alone.
You are not alone.
Sing it to me.
I am here with you.
And a little sing along.
You're in your car right now, it's being serenaded. But to use your words,
your mum.
To use your words simple, I would go one step further and say it's counterintuitive.
Okay.
In that, a lot of the work that I do is so hard for people to grasp because it feels like you're putting your left shoe on your right foot. Our whole life we've been told that you're rewarded, compensated and incentivized around how good of a problem solver you are, how quickly you can make pain go away, how logical you can be. And yet when it comes to emotions, the complete inverse is true. If you try and fix someone, you will make them worse. They are
listen to
looking
that,
for your
listeners,
care.
what he just said. If you try to fix someone, you will make them worse. We will elaborate on that in a little bit because there's a lot in that too.
Everything is based off that sentence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in all the ironies, what I found with doing this with over 10,000 people on over 4 continents, got a master's degree in it. This is now the main curriculum that's taught
I
at
wouldn't touch that book.
American. Hover around
You
it.
don't know where it's been.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop it.
In
we're
a
being
sacred
naughty.
space, apparently.
That's right.
Thank you, I'll run with that.
This is trusted now by American Express, Microsoft, KPMG, Lend-Lease, NBN, Allens, Baker McKenzie. This is just some of my clients to start that exclusively use Real Conversations as their leadership development capability program and or their peer support upskill program, right?
Hey, bravo to that,
Yeah.
really.
Hell yeah.
And for our world and for future
Spreading the
people
love.
there, that's really,
Literally.
is I think for my children and younger people coming into the workforce, that these things are going to be addressed. And because we were never really taught, when you were saying exactly that's right, because we were taught to sort of solve problems, I guess. And so, whether you're a parent or a friend, it's, we need tools to know what to do, what to say.
We do, and especially when the tool is not intuitive.
Yes.
So coming back to that point around,
Yes.
it's trusted by all these people, but at the start there's a lot of resistance because I come in and I'm like, hey, you know how you've got to your pay scale because of how good you are at problem solving? I need you to put that to the side right now. And they're like, but that's my tool of my trade, right? And I'm like, it is, but that's like expecting that you can build this studio with just one instrument being a hammer. You need multiple instruments depending on the outcome that you're looking for. And if we often conflate being practical with being helpful. And what my work is trying to do is reorientate the definition of helpfulness. When you're having a conversation that's practical, keep fixing it. But if it's emotional, you must change tools and pick up the tweezers, not the hammer. And you need to change your KPI from how well can you fix the problem to how well can you understand the person. Because when someone is understood as the leading metric, they have what they need.
A producer is smiling at the moment, being a life coach, and I guess how do you feel? Just you can jump in.
She's very emotional.
No, but it's I say this all the time when people kind of put logic first, and I'm like, we are now in the emotional part of the brain where logic isn't helpful here. And I think it's even in our language from tiny kids when they, and I know this isn't intentional, but when a kid is crying or distressed, we say, what's wrong? The word wrong. We are already saying from the moment someone cries that there is something wrong here that needs to be fixed.
You're a broken object in need of repair.
Yeah, and it's just so not true.
What should you say, Sam?
Yeah, what's a reframe for that?
I think when someone's crying like that, even a little kid, we say, how are you feeling?
Bingo.
Wow.
And try and get them, and if they don't have the words, you can say, are you sad? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Give them the words.
Not
and
if
then
they're squealing for a hamburger.
I know when, or even just soothing their nervous system, physically co-regulating them rather than saying what's wrong. That's how we learn that this stuff is wrong when it's not wrong. Our emotions tell us, they're the best, most accurate form of information, I think, that we can take
and
in.
we override it.
These
in
are
the
life's
society.
biggest, greatest lessons.
It's just the best listening to
we
you.
and we just haven't been educated that way. I think a lot of people of our generation, and we've come with big hearts, and we come and we care and we love, and you're always there. But sometimes those tools of going, I don't know really what to say here, or I guess sometimes it is there of going to say, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Harvard wellness study that was done for 80 years? That one always blows my mind.
The Grant study.
They've done every possible study, and I've mentioned it on the potty before, about every part of the physical body, but I just love what they say at the end of the day, the missing link was just empathy and attachment. As simple as that.
Well, to that point,
really?
I think to kind of go off the back of laddering, changing the definition of helpful when you're in a practical versus an emotional conversation. Practical help is fix, emotional help is understand. That's the basic form. And the technology that enables you to allow someone to feel understood is what's called a real conversation, which has 5 parts. And I've spelled it out in the book and in the workshops, step by step on exactly how to reach that metric.
Can we start on that while you're there? The path to conversational enlightenment, the 5-step framework, engage, listen, safety, action, boundaries, and I've called it something.
Yeah.
LSAB.
Elsa B, yeah.
Yeah. See.
Elsa B.
LSAB.
LSAB. Well, usually
I said it's the LSAB.
a lot of
He's just got his own
It's the jam.
terminology.
a lot of my participants in the workshops are parents.
Yes, yeah.
They come in as people managers or CEOs or board directors, but a lot of them are parents.
Yeah.
And what helps them remember the framework is that their child has almost certainly watched Frozen. So Elsa B.
That's
Yeah.
so good. So
Yeah.
I love
So
that.
let's
And
run-
let's go
Frozen
through
is
it.
called, the mantra is let it go.
There's
a song in
Don't
that.
stop me. Okay, let's run
Let
through
it
the
go.
5-step framework, because now you've got we're salivating. We want to.
Let's do it, but we need to edge
us.
closer. I need to frame this up before we deep dive.
Please, yeah.
So the intention of sitting in the pain with someone doesn't feel right. It feels wrong. Like, especially if you're a parent, your child comes to you and says, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depressed. All you want to do is, let's go talk to a psychologist. Are you exercising at the moment? Are you, should you speak to your friends more? And what we're doing is we're treating someone as a process. And when they feel that, you're not connecting with them, you're talking to them. And another concept around the difference between fixing and understanding is to put even more simple language on it, talking isn't helpful when it comes to emotional problems. Only connecting is. And we think that talking and connecting are the same thing. One moves the mouth, the other moves the heart.
Oh, another
Sam,
one.
did you get that?
See, he's melting our hearts, isn't he?
Keep it going. I'm loving
I know.
this.
But truly, if someone is in emotional pain,
Yeah.
I promise you on my career that talking to them will not help them. It just won't. If you're talking to them from your mouth, trying to offer solutions, ironically, you will fulfill the number one thing you're trying to avoid. Because as I said when I was talking about the corporate stuff, I wasn't trying to plug myself. I was trying to come in and say that after dealing with thousands and thousands of people in this same situation, the number one feeling that any parent, any people manager, any sibling, any romantic partner is trying to avoid when they're supporting someone in emotional pain is that they don't want to make it worse. They don't want to feel guilty or shame that they've let someone down in a moment that they could have been helpful, but they've actually hindered their progress. And in the most ironic way, you are going to make them worse if you do what feels intuitive to you, which is to fix them. My work is around helping people understand that it doesn't feel intuitive to go to a gym to lift a weight that tears a muscle in order to get stronger. But that's life. You find the opposite in the opposite. You get stronger by tearing a muscle. You become more resilient by leaning into your weaknesses and exposing them to yourself. Night needs day, cold needs warmth. And so if you are trying to use your traditional approach on a new problem, which is that of connection is where you listen and you go into the pain, you're going to fulfill your deepest worry and insecurity that you're going to make them worse. And so, for example, I talk about the 5 mistakes of disconnection, that if, 50% of the book or 50% of my talk can be understood by page, I think it's like...
I'd say 59, line 12.
by page
She
like
scribbled it. Mitch, what's scribbles I got on it?
37. There you go. There's 263. 50% of what you need to know can be done by page 37. And that is that you know that, A, if it's emotional, change your metric of success from how well can you fix it to how well can you understand them as a person. Not their problem, but them as a person. The why. Not what are you upset about, why are you upset about that thing?
Yeah.
Then all their nervous system will change to kick into gear towards emotional regulation and homeostasis. They have what they need to get better. They just need to be loved into that condition for the automatic processes to ensue. And that in which they can't solve themselves will stick once they feel connected. So OCD, debilitating OCD, it requires exposure and response prevention in order to heal. But 2 things. 1, 90+% of what people are going through emotionally is not complex mental illness that actually requires technical therapeutic interventions like that. It is care. When they did a meta-analysis of why does therapy work, for the 90% of people that aren't experiencing complex mental illness, the quality of the relationship will determine whether or not they will get better in
With their
therapy or
therapist.
not the
Wow.
practical intervention
Wow.
used. So you can pretty much take someone in a non-complex state and put them with a CBT therapist or a DBT therapist or an ABCD fucking equine therapy, music therapy, it doesn't matter. If someone feels loved, heard and seen, or at least in a psychologically safe environment where they don't feel judged to express their authentic self, they will get better. In the other 10%, the technical therapeutic interventions like ERP and DBT and blah, 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 will only stick if they are loved and seen and cared about as a human first. So we always start with real when it's emotional, even if you also need the practical after the connection. So coming back to the 5 mistakes, I say by 37, you'll know 50% of everything, which is what's a real conversation and what are the 5 things not to do. Then page 37 to 265
line 4.
are the 5 steps that you
Scribble.
will do,
Yes, yeah.
right? So let's talk about 5.
Can we go through those?
Yeah, 5
line
things
2.
to easily stop today
Yeah.
without shame, because we all do it. I do
Yeah.
it every day, and I wrote the book. Number 1 thing, stop being a magician, which means stop saying you should or you shouldn't, thinking you can wave a magic wand and take everyone's pain away. You can't. People aren't looking to be solved. They're looking to feel heard and cared about. And 90% of the time, what comes next will be natural because they're loved and cared about. So put the wand down. Often we don't even know
Wow, put
we're
the wand
in
down.
an emotional conversation. We've labeled it as practical. Like, for example, your partner says to you, I'm feeling distant at the moment. and then you say, well, let's go for dinner on Saturday night. You were not in a practical conversation. You were in an emotional conversation. What they wanted to be asked was why. They wanted you to go toward the pain, not away from the pain. So really putting down the wand is about broadening your awareness to what type of conversation am I in right now? Because I'm going to think that every conversation is practical unless I ask myself, did they just say the words I feel? You're almost certainly in a real conversation, not a transactional one. Did they talk to you about the relationship they have with you? You're almost certainly in a real conversation, not a transactional one, as opposed to the illness or the problem that they're experiencing on their own. But more than anything, if you have any EQ, you can tell if you're in an emotional, real conversation or a practical, transactional one. Because just like how when you're driving a manual car, you can feel when it clicks into gear when you release your foot off the clutch. You can feel when a conversation has charge in it. When you're like, ooh, I can feel some disappointment. I can feel some sadness. I can feel some anger. If you have any EQ, now you know that some realness needs attending to. You are now no longer exclusively in a practical. Like, I've lost my iPhone. You'll probably start practical, and after 10 minutes trying to find it, knowing that it's not here anymore, you now have an emotional thing to attend to, which is, I feel like a fucking idiot. And if you don't attend to that part and you stay practical, you won't fully connect with that person, and they won't come to you as the trusted ally because they'll think, you'll just tell me what to go and do. I know that Find My iPhone is a thing. I will go to my iCloud. What I need you to hear from me right now, and you don't even need to take this away. You don't need to tell me that I'm not an idiot. I need you to hold with me that that's what I believe. And that will naturally dissipate if you hold that with me. So put the one down. 2, don't make it about you, what we call the thief. Say, me too, jump in with a story of your own. When we do that, just like with the wand, we have good intention, which is I'm going to use my tool of trade that I've been refining over decades to try and help you. Yeah. But I now know that I don't just have one tool, and that my definition of helpfulness needs to change emotional versus practical. 2, I don't want to be a thief and say me too and shift the focus, even though I'm doing that so that you don't feel vulnerable and exposed on your own. When I do that, you think you need to take care of me. So here's an example. My dad recently got out of hospital for suicidal ideation a couple of months ago. Massively hard thing to go through as a child. I was his number one rock. I was there every single day, happily showing up for him in these moments that mattered most. That took a lot out of me, as it would any supporter. And the next week after he got discharged, I was on a call. It was a Tuesday morning, and one of my clients asked, "How are you?" And I said, "Are we having a real conversation or a transactional one?" And he said, "Let's have a real conversation." I said, "Not great, and here's why." At the end of me saying that my dad just got discharged from hospital, he then spent 10 minutes telling me about how his mum was dying of cancer. He was trying to bond with me, but what I heard was, you need to pull your calories together and show empathy for me when you don't have anything to give.
Interesting.
I couldn't do that. I was like, dude, I thought this was my moment to lean. And you just took that.
Fascinating.
So you can absolutely
it's so
say...
good for people to hear this, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can
It's
absolutely
imperative.
say, here's why I understand from a first-degree perspective.
People run away from these
Yes,
conversations. This
because
is
of
real.
shame.
Yeah.
And so if we get stuck in... Right now, someone who's watching or listening to the pod will be like, what the fuck's this Justin Bieber guy got to say? He's 34 years old. Don't tell me about how to parent or people manage or whatever. And I would say, fair enough, be skeptical. But please don't run away from what could be true in this conversation right now just because it hurts. Because the number one lesson I've ever felt and learned in my life that has got me to where I am today is go toward the pain. If you can't go towards what's real with other people, you're not helping them. And if you can't go towards what's real within yourself right now as you're listening to these words, being like, fuck, I could probably do 1% better there, then you're not opting into the full human thing. Human means not always being happy, because the opposite of depression is mania, not happiness. We're not designed to be up all the time. We're designed to work through adversity and find purpose. That's the number one emotion other than love that we're built to feel. Purpose, love, and I think either or peace. I'm working through AWE or peace as the third emotion. But what I mean by that is, if this conversation is stirring something within you, listen to it. It's pointing you to where it wants you to go, which is, fuck, I probably say same or me too in moments that someone's looking to lean on me emotionally. And instead of getting lost in fuck Justin Bieber, maybe I can go, cool, I've always been doing that from a good place. No need to feel shame. It's probably just not overly helpful. So I'm going to tweak that from today. And watch your relationships flourish if you don't get lost in that shame storm. So that's 2. 3.
I love that. Really, I love that so much.
Magician
you know, 'cause we are
thief, what's the
students
next
of life,
one?
and I
What's
think
that?
everyone wants to learn so much, and I think everyone's, effed up and made mistakes, and we're all here to learn and to try and do the best we can. And when it comes, sort of, say, someone like you and other sources there, I love hearing that because I need to hear that again. I need those reminders there.
The next one freaks me out because you'll be fine.
Yeah, the
It's-
blind optimist.
How many people
Yes, yeah.
in a day?
Yeah.
Hey, fine.
Yeah,
Oh,
get
you'll be
over it,
fine.
yeah.
The word fine, I mean, I think of a bloody ticket I'm going to get when I'm driving.
That's a
What's
good one.
fine?
Yeah.
So this one
You had a
blows me
few of those,
away.
Jodie, too, haven't you?
We love a parking fine.
Yeah.
So this
funnily
one-
enough,
Yes.
just a quick
Yeah.
story on parking fines. Because we're jumping around a bit,
Hey,
so
we're
let's
ju-
fucking
hey,
lean
that's
in.
us.
You
It's
and
called,
us. We're gonna
hey,
jump.
over the back fence.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
We're
jump
switching
around.
our legs
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
fence.
It was the
Closer to
way,
line.
the parking fines were the way that I knew that I was getting better emotionally. And here's why. When I was at my lowest, I remember waking up one morning and walking out to my car and getting a parking fine, and I didn't feel a fucking thing. Because I was like, who fucking cares? Nothing matters anyway. I probably won't even be alive next week, so it doesn't matter. And I remember waking up 6 months after that and going out and seeing a parking fine and me being pissed about it. And I was like, I'm fucking back, baby. I'm back. I'm caring about the little things again.
That's fascinating.
So I was pretty
Yeah.
upset about her parking tickets. But that's another subject.
I'm back.
Yeah, she's always been here.
Exactly.
Though I love the blind optimist.
So the blind optimist, other than I agree that fine is probably not great language,
no.
but what's even less helpful is at least.
Oh yes.
Because
that's awful,
it
that
introduces
one.
Sit with that one.
it says you're not valid because, as opposed to you are valid
Write
and.
that down. That's a great one.
Actually, I heard you say, and I loved it on Darling Shine, with the two girls there.
Chloe.
Chloe, yeah, gorgeous Chloe.
Rockstar.
Yeah, rockstar, just so beautiful. And you brought that up, and when people were saying, and she's now had a baby, which is beautiful, but she's had many years of hell and to trying to get to that point. And when she'd have miscarriage, there people would say, well, at least she can get pregnant. And they were trying to be nice, I guess. It wasn't like it was any malice or anything, but it was like, she said that was like the worst thing they could have ever said.
Do you know what, Nicole? For the listeners, there's a light going on. I've used that my whole life.
Yes,
Well, at
yeah.
least you're because you're trying to be kind. You're trying to
So
do
that's what we need to
good
know.
in the world.
Yeah.
But that's why it's lovely to break this down subtly, and I mean subtly. Don't think this is too much. It's actually simple, but subtly,
step by step.
step into it, and maybe reframe things.
And can I say, because a lot of people ingest what I'm saying, particularly in the early doors, until they actually get to know me a bit more and think, okay, he's coming from a good place, and this stuff is actually pretty easy to do. It just sounds confronting at first.
Yeah.
Is realize that don't absorb what I'm saying in black and white. What I'm not saying is wallow around with someone in the mud and tell them they should feel shit. I'm just saying, here's a perfect example for the blind optimist of that concept of stay in the grey. I try and live my life that I'm not going to tell anyone to look on the bright side until I've first earned the right by sitting with them in the darkness. So that doesn't mean wallow in victimhood. It does mean meet them where they are, because just psychologically speaking, they're not going to listen to me saying, go to point B, unless I'm like, I understand your point A. I'm here with you. Tell me about point A. Let me hear it and not try and change it one bit. Because you know what humans do when they're like, you're not meeting me where I am, you're telling me to go over there? I double down on point A.
Yeah.
I become more resistant to going
Naughty
over
girl.
there where you're saying,
Absolutely.
True.
tell me to be, which is positive and look on the bright side, because I will only do that if I know that you're getting why I am here in the first place. Okay, cool. You've met me here. Now broaden my horizon. Because as well, it's showing I'm not judging you. You're valid for what you're feeling because it's yours. You don't need to not feel it because other people have it worse. But can you also see, I'm expanding as opposed to reducing your viewpoint, right? So at least is never valid. It's I'm meeting you where you are. I'm understanding why you feel that way. And then when it naturally comes to it, I'm saying, I wonder how else we might be able to see this.
Oh, that's a good hint.
That curiosity leads them to their own wisdom, where they're going to want to get out of their own negativity because they'll hear it within themselves and say, but I also know that watch 9 out of 10 people get there on their own if you meet them at point A first.
That's gold, isn't it? That's
It's what do I say? It's like I'm like a cat
So
licking
we're going
milk.
to keep on rewinding this one and hearing it again and again, or
So,
watching it again and
because
again.
of time and there's so much to
There's
get
a couple
to.
more.
Helicopter,
A couple more.
sorry.
Helicopter.
Yes, helicopter.
Tell us about
So
that.
mistake 4, helicopter, is where you lose your sense of self in someone else when they need you to be a stable object. So helicopter happens, the last 2 very much speak to attachment styles. If you don't know your attachment style, absolutely look it up. You can find it in 5 minutes. It's determining pretty much every minute of your life. So anxious, preoccupied people, who I used to identify with and as, we have a tendency to care about others more than ourselves. And as a result of that, we don't put our own needs first. Now, that just doesn't only impact us negatively by not learning how to have limits and say no and blah, blah, blah. It impacts other people negatively because we become one with them and enmesh. And when they're in a negative state, there is no neutral ground to stand on. So let's say, for example, a child comes with a graze on their arm to the parent and says, look at this, look at my cut. If the parent starts crying with the child, is that a healthy response?
Well, I don't think so.
No, it's not.
We're not going to get
because
anywhere.
then the child goes, fuck, the world is chaos.
Yeah, yes.
Right? And so
And my mum's mad.
And but I have no separateness. So I am now narcissistic and I think that the world revolves around me and all this other stuff. So, but if the mother or the father goes, I'm not even acknowledging your pain, you'll be fine. The opposite happens, where the world is rigid and I have no support system and safety net. So what we're trying to do is be attuned and say, hey, I'm acknowledging you're in pain right now. That's step 1.
Yeah, that's
How can I
important.
empower you to solve your own pain? Now, obviously that gets more accurate the older someone is age-wise. But helicopter is when you blend in that emotion and you become contagious with the stress instead of contagious with calm. So imagine when someone is in emotional pain, you're walking up to them with 2 glasses every time someone is in emotional pain. You have a glass of gasoline and a glass of water. Choose wisely. Because you will make it worse unless you anchor down and find your own separate stability. They need you to be separate and linked at the same time, just like how yin needs yang. You must be separate and together with them. Now, people mishear me on this one and go, oh, so I should just be stoic from now on. No, I have a charity called Heart on My Sleeve. Most of my waking hours is devoted to getting people to talk about their emotions honestly. What I am saying is, in conversations, in moments where you've entered into a chat, someone's not okay, and you've gone, I consent to being a supporter in this conversation, what I am saying is, anchor the fuck down. Yes, stay strong. Because if you fall apart, you will make it worse. Fall apart the moment that conversation ends. That is a healthy behavior. Go lean on people and distribute that emotion out. We are supposed to domino on each other. That's how the system works. But if you freak out when they're freaking out, it will become
It's so
worse.
beautiful to hear this, guys. It really is. It's really important.
It's incredible.
And I think it's where we have to individually, you step up to that moment. So if you don't really know what to do, but we can all go, oh, this is when I need to put my big pants on for this moment, because my role right now is supporter. If I don't know what to do, at least be there and be strong.
Correct. Which comes back to one of the core learnings of the book as well. When people read it or they listen to a keynote, they go through a workshop, they're like, okay, there's so many tactical things I could do, but one of the most interesting facts is that supporting others is an inside-out job. I had no idea that most of it is about changing what's within me in order to be more beneficial for out here.
Yeah.
Which is, if I'm not regulating properly, no shame. Fuck, I spent 30 years as dysregulated as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get well, not just because I thought I deserved some peace, but so that I could be the best friend, son, brother,
Compassionate.
people manager I could be. The greatest gift you can give to the world is to go inwards on a journey of nervous system regulation.
Whoa.
It's true.
Bravo.
And it
Go
looks
inwards.
selfish at the
Yeah.
start, but it's actually the opposite.
It's-
Because otherwise you will bleed on people that didn't cut you.
And the
Oh,
last one, did you
yeah.
mention the ostrich?
Ostrich is where you
'Cause-
bury your head in
yeah.
the sand and you go,
Yes.
emotions aren't my bag.
Yeah.
And we all
No, I
know lots
see,
of people,
that's a fact.
that's exactly.
Dismissive, avoidant
seriously.
attachment style, the
Yeah.
opposite of the
Yes.
helicopter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is, The helicopter is there's too much togetherness. I need to honor my separateness and find a home within me. The ostrich is I have too much separateness and I need to start to find a home in connection more. And part of that, an ostrich is either A, I don't believe that I have therapeutic power. I need to be a professional psychologist if I was to have a real conversation, or I should just get them to one. That's not the deal. You are not someone's therapist or a triage to a therapist. They're asking you to be something in the middle of those two things, and that's a fucking human.
Oh, it's so good because people do
so
cop
true.
out, and I'm not saying putting blame on that. It's just
They're
there are
asking you to
things
be
that's-
human.
Yeah.
That's it. And you must learn to lean into your humanity. We are a social, emotional species that has learned how to think, not the other way around. We're asking ostriches to return to their roots, not to be someone that they're not, to remember who they are. At university, I was really curious to learn that the worst thing you can do when someone's crying, other than the obvious, like shame them or abuse them, is to hand them a tissue. Because what it signals is what you're doing is messy and wrong. You need to clean up and hurry up. The best tissue in the world is 3 words. Take your time and then stop talking. Stop doing stuff. The magic is happening. Crying is the nervous system catharsis.
To make me cry.
So if you're interrupting by saying something is wrong, now, asterisk,
Tears can talk.
tears are
Yeah.
speech that we cannot find the words for yet.
So beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So now, asterisk, if there's mascara and snot everywhere, I welcome the abundance of Kleenex.
Hankies.
I always say to people, if your psychologist hands you a tissue, run for
Yeah.
the hills.
Yeah. I just said to Mitch, when you let someone take their time, that person, as soon as they feel ready, they reach for the tissue.
Correct.
Oh, that's
And or
that was very well put.
they
I
will,
do it all the time with my therapist. I go,
Yeah.
once I've been sobbing for I just need to go get a tissue.
Yeah. Or as an adult, you let people ask for what they need
Yes.
as opposed to over caretaking for them, which is, can you help me find a tissue?
Yeah.
Why do we
that's
not
so
trust that
true.
someone can find their words to say that,
Yeah.
right? A
Or when they walk into
psychologist-
the room, the boxes are
See,
over
isn't
there.
this just
Start
everyone
talking.
listening? I hope everyone's
That's
getting
my
as
earth
much out of
sign.
it as we are, which I'm sure you are. It's just like these everyday life skills.
A psychologist should have it in the middle of you. That's where the Kleenex
Yes.
should sit, in between both of you, because their job is to let you know metaphorically as much as practically, I'm not here to save you. I'm here to witness the amazing gifts that you already have to save yourself, and I'm going to care about you during that process. That's real conversations. They either already know and you're just helping them remember, or they'll ask you for the parts that they need help on. But the main role is to care and witness them in their pain, because that is the fucking catharsis.
And can I just ask a quick question on that note, say even with the ostrich too, because you get sort of some people of our generation and maybe it's their partner or someone else there, and they might be they need to talk something and they know their partner doesn't want to deal with it, it's going to sort of like run away. Are you in a situation, how do you deal with that? How do you get them to try and to listen, or what do you say when there's so many people?
It's a big one.
I was just
I
going to say,
know,
that's so
I know.
big to unpack. He was doing the deep breath, and
Yeah,
I
but
did it
still-
too. It's so cute.
And I'm
It's a
throwing
great
but it's
question.
something
Simple,
that I think
simple
people
way.
can relate to it,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
especially our
believe
generation. You know, they
Anyone
don't-
who's getting interviewed, I believe, should answer the question first and then
Yeah.
deep dive on it second. So I'm going to answer the question
okay.
first.
Yes.
And that is, you can't change anyone, you can only invite them in.
Oh,
Right?
I like that.
So in the book, there is in one of the boundary laws that I talk about, which is module 5, boundaries, you must take full sovereignty over your own life. You can't tell someone you have to speak to me or else. Threatening doesn't get you closer
No.
to someone. You have to let people live their lives and then make choices around how involved you want to be with their decisions based on that. And then they need to experience the consequence of those decisions in healthy ways that aren't punitive with intent. So for example, stating your needs. What is really helpful for me is if I know where you're at, I can then show up as my best self and ideally help, not hinder. And part of that means having the information necessary to do that. Would you feel comfortable sharing that with me? If they're like, no, cool. Well, just letting you know, I totally respect your decision. I will likely not be able to be there in those moments that you would like me to be. And I would like you to not hold that against me. And there's going to be times in which the behaviors that you have as a result of what you're going through are going to put me in unsafe positions. And therefore I'll be putting in distance emotionally, psychologically, physically, proximity-wise, in order to be safe during whatever you choose to go through on your own. So to simplify what I just said, I've lived most of my life telling people you need to X and Y. Mm-hmm. I now live my life as much as possible. If you choose to X, then I will do Y in response. Mm. And when supporting someone with their mental health, the same rules apply.
Can you throw in a real life sentence, like rather than the X and the Y there?
Yeah. So you need to stop using that tone with me. Right? Now it's, if you use that tone with me, I'll leave the conversation.
Can you say that again? If
you need to not use that tone with me.
Right.
If you use that tone with me, I'll leave the conversation and I won't be able to have these types of conversations with you moving forward.
It's like a beautiful boundary where you're saying,
That's the,
if this
so it's
happens,
a softer
then
boundary.
Yeah.
It's softer.
Actually, they
That
can be
one's a
really,
bit more-
really firm. It's a formula.
Firm, but the first one to me was a bit more...
The first
not
one is not
threatening, but
good
just-
because it starts
it's
with
a
a you need to
command.
change.
True,
Because it's a
thank you.
directional
It's a
thing.
command. That's what it
Yes.
is, yeah.
It's saying that you need to change in order for me to be in relationship with you. What you're saying is, here's the conditions in which I show up best. If you choose to adapt to that, I can. If you choose not to, then here's the limits that or the changes I'll have to put in my behavior. I could deep dive again. There's a story, Brene Brown shares a story where I controversially disagree with
do
what
it.
that is.
Disagree with Brene.
Which
I,
is...
I have a mixed relationship with her,
So-
don't I?
so-
I love it sometimes and not at other times.
It was
yeah.
hard for me to get to this because she is my role model.
Yes.
Like if
Yeah.
I was a tennis player, she's my Roger Federer. She is
I love-
my
that's a
pin-up
great
person
analogy.
more than anyone else in the industry.
Yeah. Shame.
I hope to be her peer in the next 5 years, right? I'm on a
Brilliant.
mission.
Excellent.
But her definition of boundaries, I don't agree with. And one day in person, I'm going to say, I love the shit out of you. You're my demigod.
We'll send this to Brenna.
So what is
You
it?
know, which
So what
good.
is it?
So
We'll
she shared this story on the Russell Brand podcast, and Russell said, "What is a boundary?" Because you've basically introduced this to our vernacular, at very least in the corporate world. And she said, "Well, let me tell you a story." She said, "When I was starting to get," and this is paraphrasing, so apologies, Brene, in advance if I get this wrong, but. She said, when I was getting sober, I was also giving up gossiping for Lent. And this was many, many years ago. And she said that the people in her neighborhood were hosting parties and hanging out together at the time. And they were leading up to, let's call it a Thanksgiving event. It was some type of milestone. And Brene was in charge of kind of running the plan for it. And there was this one friend that was like constantly getting drunk, inappropriately drunk at parties. And it made her feel uncomfortable as someone in her sobriety journey. It made her children feel uncomfortable because I think they were being loud and potentially aggressive. And so Brene said, I'm not going to gossip about this person. I'm going to take it up with them directly, which so far, so good. And she said, the way that I set a boundary and how I learned what a boundary was is that I said, you're invited to the barbecue that's coming up, but you can't drink. Right? So you can come to the barbecue. You're invited. We want you there. We want you and your children there, but you can't drink.
Alcohol.
Now, what that is to me is, even though it's a nuance, it has cataclysmic consequences downstream. That is called a rule. A rule is where you mandate someone's behavior. And a rule is very appropriate in vertical relationships. Parent-child, people manager, staff member, teacher-student.
So reframe that for me then. How would you like to hear it?
You're invited to the party. If you come and you choose to drink, you will be told to leave. Or if you come and you choose to drink, then there'll be a limit in which we say it's time to go. Which is, you can choose the behavior that you want to act, and we will implement a limit based on your choice of behavior, as opposed to you can't drink.
Right.
I'm an adult.
It's slam
you can't
dunk.
tell me what to do.
It's true.
And it's not going to have
It's
the best
again,
reaction.
it's
I'm
softer.
sure you've heard of Terry Cole.
So she'll swallow it down
Yes, because
more.
we had Terry
she
Cole
was
on the
brilliant.
podcast.
The Boundary Boss.
Yeah, and her book is Boundary Boss, and it's similar that we keep on. Students of life, we just need to know more and more ways of saying it. You've got the message there, and everyone's going with the right intention with the message, but it's the way of saying it. So it's so good to hear.
I think when you're saying you need to X and Y,
Stick
you're
with a
setting a
finger.
rule. And that's okay in vertical relationships. Like, you can't stay up past 11. You're going to tell your child that. It's not a negotiation. And some ways, horizontal relationships where the power dynamic's the same, like friends, co-workers, romantic relationships, rules are also necessary. Like, you can't touch me there. But in most instances in everyday life, horizontal relationships are held together through boundaries, which is if you choose to act a certain way, I will choose to respond a certain way. That's not a threat, because a threat is saying you need to do this, otherwise I'm going to take something away from you that's important in order to hurt you
Similar to the
intentionally.
child, too.
This is saying I need to protect myself. So if you choose to do this, then I'm going to respond in this way.
Hey, what was the outcome? Did she have the Barbie, and did they?
Did she get drunk and fall on the sausages? Or
The outcome was that the friend
but-
said, I wouldn't come to your event in a million fucking years.
I was waiting. I knew. Do you know? I knew that in
wow.
advance.
Isn't
I
that
knew
amazing?
because that was
Yes.
the reaction to the statement.
To the judgment.
It's
To
a
the
judgment
pure
there.
judgment.
And it's not saying don't set
and
firm
I
boundaries.
get that, though. I want to bring up phones.
Yeah.
How many people are befriending phones?
Yeah, too many.
And it terrifies the hell out of the world
Yeah.
at the moment, including our government, with under 16-year-olds not going on social media. But they think that is a conversation because they're texting or they're talking on social media, such like.
Well, it's become an addiction, and it's become
It's
a real
an addiction,
problem.
and
hasn't
there's
it?
no real conversation. That's not. Would you clarify that for me? Is it if someone's going to text and we've just done an hour with you talking about conversations, the do's and don'ts and such like. Can you express that through a text or through social media?
It's a really good. Let me answer and then unpack to use the model.
Yeah.
You can. I believe you can. It's
that's
not as high
positive.
fidelity, but you can. And technology is a weapon, and it's here to stay, and it's going to grow. So if we try and fight against it, it's a losing battle, right? So we need to embrace it, in my
Interesting.
opinion, and see how do we maximize the potential of this thing. My ability to help people at scale through Heart on My Sleeve movement simply would not exist had it not been for technology. It is an incredibly powerful platform that I use regularly to help people. I would much prefer to have interactions with someone via text than not speak to them at all until we're face to face.
Really?
So long as I'm doing that in the right way.
Yes.
And so what I believe in texting is, instead of asking about what was the score in the sports, why are sports important to you? That can be done in text. What did you enjoy about the game? Not what was the score, did you go to the Swans? Situation, person.
I love
Why?
It's putting it
And
back.
that
It's
can
so
happen over
yummy.
text.
Isn't that yummy?
Everything's yummy.
Stirring
All of
the
a
yummy
sudden
pie.
going,
Delicious.
And you know what, Di?
Baby.
I think that's a really good thing, because a lot of parents, sort of people then can have all phones are evil, they're
Yes,
out there.
yes.
Instead
It's
of that
blanketed.
going, that's
Yeah.
actually going to be.
You just
It's
lost.
part of our world.
You just
You've
lost the generation that
younger
you're trying to
people.
help.
I love the way
They're going to be
you-
like, okay,
Okay,
so
it's
now
true.
I'm not listening to
Grandma,
anything
I'm
you
not
say.
gonna listen to
Correct.
this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
whereas
Sorry,
really,
but I'm going to swear.
Yes,
but it's all like, oh, you can all get fucked.
You're
And they
fighting
just do
against
that
me.
to
I know,
everyone,
and I
you
love
know?
hearing that, because,
Yeah.
look, whatever with our potty and social media and stuff like that, we get some
Yeah.
interactions, and people have heard us,
Yeah.
through Instagram or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
and it's a tool, but I guess it's the one thing.
Yeah, I heard Johan Hari say
Oh, I love it.
to think of things like a tool. He said fire's a tool, and you can use it really well to warm your home and cook your dinner, or you can use it to burn down someone's home.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about how you use the tool.
100%.
And it's the same
Yeah,
with text.
that's beautiful.
Like, it's exactly
And
what
you've
you
got a
just said.
similar one with the water hole and the house.
It's
fire.
too late to build
I love it.
build
Yeah.
a water well when
Yeah.
the house is on fire.
Yeah, I love that. It's so
Yeah.
true. We're running out of time.
Oh, but I
George,
do want to also ask
Yes.
about
Yeah.
loneliness,
So,
because
yeah.
I also want us with the Groundswell Foundation,
Yes.
and you're the keynote speaker, and I blew everyone out the waters there. And is it on the rise with loneliness?
Big time, yeah.
God, yeah.
And just quickly, if we can, I know it's a lot, but addressing that with loneliness.
Yeah,
You know,
I think the work that Groundswell and Martin Blake
Yes.
are doing is fantastic. They led the largest inquiry into loneliness in Australia ever, and now the New South Wales government is formally kicking off proceedings, and I imagine that we're going to have a minister appointed for loneliness, and that we're going to have public policy and
Good.
charities.
It's all
and-
over the world. It's not just here.
Yeah, and we're doing some great work in this little island that we call home down here.
Still calls.
And we have a lot of work to do, but we still call Australia home, and we're trying to build a better future. For me, there's going to be a whole bunch of official things that come out around how we tackle loneliness off the back of this
Yeah.
inquiry. Here's what I believe
Yeah.
is the answer, and
Love
we
to
already
know.
know it. Connection, not talking.
Yeah. Wow, yeah.
You can be in a room full of people. We can make let's say, for example, public policy where there's more communal spaces that are circular, that are encouraging people to walk in the middle of walking your dog, so that there's actually encouraging conversation and social interaction. Okay, cool. We have screen time limits at workplaces that get people into the office. Who knows? There are multiple ways that you can force someone to be in conversation. But if you talk more, you will not solve loneliness, because talking doesn't do fuck all unless it's practical. Sorry for swearing, but my book's called Real Conversations. I have to keep it real. Otherwise, this is just going to be more white noise on a podcast.
So being human and feeling.
You know what connection idea? It's like, when those moments there with the child, or when you're in love, and you don't have to say a word.
You just feel it.
And you just feel it, and that's sort of like the beauty of it.
Connection is where you seek to understand the person.
Yes.
Not fix the problem, and not seek to understand the situation. How's work? Are you busy? Is fucking boring. That's not connecting. What inspires you about your job? What do you hate about your job, and why?
Yeah.
Like, we spend so much time on the surface with people, and then we wonder why we're lonely, because no one feels understood. What makes them unique? It's just the social discourse that we're used to hearing on the radio and in movies on TV. It's the same regurgitation bullshit. If someone asks me about the weather, I opt out. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. This is not
I'll
the
look up at the
conversation we're
sky.
having.
There's some clouds there.
Weather, traffic, sports scores. I'm like, maybe I'm too far on the other side. But be it.
We need people like you in the world, Mitch.
Understand
really
me. What makes me tick?
And, I think there's nothing better. I'm not saying
what?
gooier or juicier than that.
You know what I want to finish on
Beautiful.
today? Because we've ignited the fire with a lot of listeners right now. And I want you to remember one thing. There was a book I read years ago by Bonnie Ware, and it's Regrets of the Dying. She worked in palliative care for years and years and years. This is very simple. A lot of people on their dying bed say, there's many, I'll just say two. One is, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. And the second one, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Speak up today, have a real conversation. That's all I've got to say about that.
Drop the mic, Di. I love it.
We love you. But I just thought it's a good way to fit.
What do you think,
Don't
Mitch,
say it on
about-
your dying bed. Do something about it now.
Yeah, and we need
Your
the
deathbed.
tools.
Like,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think, on that point, I think we wake up most days and we believe that we're in a dress rehearsal for life that's about to begin.
It's true.
Or maybe that's my depersonalization talking. But I'm constantly being like, one day the real act will start. I will come onto stage and I'm like, we're playing with live ammo now. We're fucking playing with, this is it, man.
Yeah.
This real time.
Yeah, and we're going to get to share it with you. It's great.
And we're going to fucking die. Forever. In my opinion, we're going to die and we're going to be forgotten in 2 generations' time. That is not a dark thought to me. That is liberating as fuck. Because what it means is
I hear you.
stop caring about the small shit, even though if you do care about the small shit, it's a good sign that you're in the right place.
Yes, yeah.
But the fact that you get to choose to care, that's the
My
key.
nail chip, Jodie.
Once you have
Oh
the
my
choice
God.
to care, then
Yeah.
stop letting that get to you and start to live, start to be known, start to try and know people. Like, we're
Start
so
today, guys.
Start today.
Today's the
Start
day.
to
We're
live.
Don't say it
phobic.
on your deathbed.
Whoa, this is music to our ears as well.
we're
Another
phobic
song?
of
our
feeling
language.
awkward.
Yeah.
We're
Mitch, the problem
phobic
with
of
you-
feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Talk to you.
That's living.
Yeah, it is living,
It is
you know,
true.
and you have to get to sometimes the edge sometimes to realise that or have these messages there. So, Mitch, everybody, you will have the links on our show notes to Real Conversations. With a couple of our last questions we're going to throw. Do you want to go?
I love this
Yes.
one. What makes you happy? A real conversation? Service. Oh,
Yeah.
whack.
Service to others. I don't think there's a more pure form of joy than feeling like you're contributing positively to another life.
You know who else at Oz Harvest? She
Ronnie
said,
Khan.
Ronnie Khan said a
Who's
very
the biggest
similar.
giver to
Yeah, Oz Harvest. She
Yeah.
feeds
Yeah.
millions of
Rockstar.
homeless people.
Yeah, she's a rock
And she said
star.
a very similar thing, the joy it brings her. Now, again, guys, if you're lonely,
on that note, it's a very good tip is
Connection.
to say that too. When we all suffer loneliness at different times, and what can you do? One of the biggest things too is to reach out and to give yourself a service, and you are helping others. But it's
true.
Selfish, but you can help yourself. We all need to be in that spot.
Hugely.
It's a two-way
So
street.
it's sort of a
Two-way
thing there.
street.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a really lovely
What's
thing
our
for
last
sharing.
question?
And now, if you could share a back fence with anybody on planet Earth, who would it be apart from us two? 3, Sammy.
Yes, Sammy.
Apart
Who
from
would it
you
be?
3 incredible
Yes.
humans,
And
probably
why?
Brene Brown.
Oh, I wonder if I
Yeah,
know what the
love
subject will be.
that.
Because I
There's
feel
boundaries.
like we could collab. I could compliment her every day
Yes,
and be challenged by her every day and belay each other up the mountain. No, I would also, I think you're very fortunate metaphorically if you get to share a back fence with people that you love and love you, because not all of us have that situation where we do feel connected. And just to tie a loose end on the service thing, I don't think that's about like what I did, quitting your job, starting a charity. That's not service. Service is who you are when no one's looking. It is having
That's
a real
true.
conversation with someone and
The ego's
connecting
taken
with
out.
them, even when all of you is scared to, am I probing too far? Am I asking too deep of questions? Am I pushing on a sore spot? Service to me is holding space for their darkest parts with courage in moments that no one will ever know about. That is what will absolutely change the world and reduce and reverse this suicide pandemic that we're currently in.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you,
so
Mitch.
much, Mitch,
Yeah,
for
my
coming
pleasure.
on.
Mitch.
Thank you so much for
Sorry, I
sharing
feel like
your words.
we
with the-
didn't even get to have the main course of the 5 steps.
We want you to get-
They've got to read the book and preferably don't sleep with it like
Yeah.
I did twice.
Or do.
Let's get Mitch
So
back
do.
on again, 2025.
Seriously,
if you'd be,
real conversation, the
it
best.
would be great. And the book also is Di's, scribbled it all around and whatever. I've listened to it on audio and I
And
love
listen to
that
Mitch's
as well.
podcast. I've been listening to your
yes,
episodes.
yes.
They're
We
Be
get
back
some
on.
more love.
So, guys, we'll put everyone on the show
everyone there.
notes.
So everyone,
Yeah.
thank you for listening. This is an extra special potty, so please share this one
Yeah.
with people who you would know who would
gift.
need it. And I think that's, to be honest, everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
There you go.
And
Sam's
don't
everyone.
forget to rate and review us. We can get people like Mitch on all the
my
time, and we like to
God.
give. If we get the 5 stars, that's great, isn't it, Mitch? But Tiny likes to give stars to our guests. And what does
Infinity,
our lovely
infinity
Mitch,
out of 5.
Infinity out of 5.
Do I get an infinity out of 5?
Yeah.
She studied maths and
Nice.
was a star. When
You're doing well today. You do so much for the world, and it's a huge thank you.
And you're cute.
Oh,
Honestly,
my
that's it.
pleasure.
That's it to
Oh,
a
look,
T.
we're
Thanks,
something.
Mitch.
Can I come here every day?
Ciao,
my favourite
everybody.
place.
That's so good. Thank you.